What's up, y'all? This is Brave, and I'm back with another review of Zatima. This is season 3, episode 15, and the episode is titled Everybody Knows. Let's go ahead and get right into this review. So, we actually start this episode off with Fatima. She is storming through the office. She, is trying to talk to Angela, but Angela has hung up at this point. So, what does she do? She calls the police, tells them to do, a check on Angela. And at this point, she's a bit freaked out because she doesn't know what this random guy could have done to her best friend. So at this point, we realize that poor Angela is floating in the internet world, unfortunately, on some porn site. Okay? Poor girl. He's trying to tell her, like, are you going to let me in or what? Because she keeps asking him, where do you see this at? Like, what's the website? So he basically tells her to open up the door, right? She opens up the door. She snatches his phone. She's asking him, like, what site is this? And he's like, it's online. Or he said, it's a website. And it's like, dude, she's asking which one specifically. Are you dumb? Now, again, Angela is confused. She's shocked. She does not understand how this is even happening. And oh boy's like, oh, so you didn't know? It's very clear that she didn't know, dummy. And then he goes on to tell her, like, there's like 3,000 people who are, like, I guess watching her or like interested in watching her, something along those lines. So I'm just like, wait, is this like an ongoing camera that is rolling in her house? Or like, is oh boy uploading this? Because we do see her zoom in on who the guy is, and it was that young buck. So at one point, Angela tries to put the guy out, but oh boy is like, no, because I need my phone. Like, I'll leave, but you gotta give me my phone. And she's trying to use his phone to see exactly where the cameras are in her house. Now, I can't lie, I was kind of annoyed with Angela when she was saying, like, oh, I'm not going to give you your phone. I'm not going to give it to you. Because it's like, girl, well, he brought awareness to you, but could you at least be like, you know what, let me just see where these cameras are in my house, and then I will give you your phone back. Like, it's not that hard to say, Angela. So Angela, she goes over by her couch, right? And what does she do? She's looking around, figures it out. Someone actually put a camera right into like this little plant thing that's like used as decoration on her coffee table. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I cannot imagine that happening to me, because I would absolutely lose it. That's crazy. Because not only have you probably been listening or watching me, but you've been listening on my conversations and everything. That's crazy. So Angela, she's trying to go upstairs and see where those cameras are. And oh boy's like, give me my phone back, or whatever. And she's like, get up off of me, because at one point he kind of grabs her when she's trying to go upstairs. Baby, next thing you know, the police, they come running in. And baby, this is looking like a domestic situation. So next we see all 3 guys in the car. We have Bryce, we have Zach, and we have Nate, right? Nate over here asking Bryce random questions like, oh, do you like curry? Like, sir, just scoot back, sit back in the back seat and put your seatbelt on. At one point I got annoyed because Zach was giving attitude to Bryce yet again, and I'm trying to understand why. Bryce, put that man on the curb, okay? Pull the car over and kick Zach out. Because it's crazy to me that Nate, he can say whatever he wants, but when Bryce tries to chime in a little bit, you want to tell him, focus on the road. It's just like, Zach, chill out a little bit. So then even Nate is like, what did you do? Referring to Bryce, because in that moment, Bryce didn't do nothing that was out of the norm. Like, honestly, the way Zach is talking to both of them, I was over it in this scene, because Bryce was trying to drive them to Nate's car, right? Which was closer than wherever Zach left his car. And Zach is adamant that, no, you gotta take me to my car. And it's just like, dude, what's this energy for? Because these two are the only two trying to help your little dusty ass out. So I'm gonna need for you to chill out, especially on Bryce. Like, at some point, I feel like by the end of this season, Bryce should really, like, say something to Zach and put him in his place. Like, it gets to a point where Zach is like, just drop me off right here and I can just walk or whatever. And the reason why he said that was because Bryce was trying to tell him something about a contract. And of course, Zach don't want to hear nothing. So he jumps out the car or whatever. Nate over here chasing down behind him like he always do. I'm just like, yo, this is crazy the way Zach's character is treated. Like, he's lashing out like a child. Okay? Then on top of that, if anybody tries to say anything to him, he don't listen. I'm just like, I can't. I don't understand why this man's character is written like this on this show. However, he gets to be a total different person when we're watching Sisters. I mean, he definitely still has some of these same elements, but it is not as detrimental as he is on this show. So moving on, we actually see Angela. She's at home. The police are there, just getting a statement from her. And Fatima ends up coming in and she's checking in on her like, oh my gosh, what's going on? So the police end up leaving and Angela basically had to tell her best friend that now she is all over a bunch of fetish sites online. So Fatima ends up taking the phone and looking at it, and she's like, oh my gosh, Angela, like, why'd you do this? You didn't have to do this. And Angela is, number one, offended because, girl, why would you think that I would be posting myself online? And secondly, like, girl, you see how pissed I am. You should automatically know that somebody did this to me. Okay? But nonetheless, Angela's like, I did not do this. One of these dudes, they ended up posting me on these sites. Now, the crazy thing is that at this point, we've realized that there are cameras all around her house. They have filmed her, coming into her home, leaving her home, doing all types of things at her home, all the things, right? And then on top of that, like, she don't even know which one of these guys it is because I'm assuming that on the website, it's her with different guys. Like, that is crazy. Like, this could have been a dude from 5 guys ago. Like, that's crazy. Because at first, I thought it was just the young buck. Because that's the person that we saw in the photo. But I guess it must be some other videos of her with some other people. And the team is like, okay, well, let's go ahead and call somebody at the firm. We can get this handled, get all this taken down. But of course, Angela, she don't want that to happen because it's embarrassing. Like, and she don't want nobody at the firm to be looking at her like, girl, you was doing all of this? So, of course, Fatima is like, no, they can do it discreetly. But Angela don't trust it. She would rather change her skin color and her hair than to, have somebody at the firm take a look at this. So, of course, Fatima is like, okay, well, the police was just here, so can they help the situation? And Angela basically said no, like, they not trying to help. All right, so Fatima comes up with the bright idea that her old best friend who just came back into the picture, Leslie, maybe her husband can help the situation because after he left the military, he became FBI. So maybe he can get down to the bottom of it. Now, as Fatima is making this phone call, you can tell that she's very uncomfortable by calling Leslie for this favor. Because honestly, that is kind of weird. Like, we just saw each other earlier today and you already calling me to ask for favors. That's a little weird. But this is what was weirder for me. Angela over here asking, well, did you call somebody about Zach? Girl, we're not worried about him right now, okay? We do not care about Zachary Taylor. We're trying to help you out, my good sis. Okay? So take the help. Now, speaking of Zach, we got him and Nate. They just strolled through the projects. Again, I don't understand why people who have left the projects keep kicking it in there. Only on this show, baby. Only on this show. Because I am tired of Zach just strolling through the projects. Also, I'm just trying to understand, is his car still intact since he left it over there? Like, nobody touched your car. I'm surprised. You have a very expensive car. Nobody tried to steal it. Nobody tried to, do anything to your car. That's a little suspicious. But nonetheless, he walks up and Connie and Tony are there, and Connie is trying to touch him, I guess give him a hug, and he told her, don't touch him. Now, of course, Connie and Tony, they're happy that he's out. However, Zach has a chip on his shoulder still, because he's like, oh, so let me ask y'all a question. Did y'all know that Jeremiah was still alive at the hospital? So Zach is upset because these people knew that Jeremiah was still alive. And he's like, so y'all didn't think to come check in on me or whatever. And it's like, I'm sorry, Connie, this is the time where you need to tell Zach, Negro, I have children. Those are the only people that I need to worry about. I don't need to worry about a full grown man who actually attempted to murder his own brother. I don't need to worry about you. So I'm gonna need you to take all that bass out your voice. But no, Connie says that, oh, because, things can get tricky, and it got tricky because of Fatima or whatever. Now, of course, they bring up this whole Zach needs to be taught a lesson thing that Fatima kept going around saying, and Zach is upset. He's like, I don't need to be taught no lesson. I'm a grown man, blah, 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 blah. And then he starts to come at Connie sideways. Because at this point, she's trying to explain to him, like, listen, things could have gotten really bad, and it still can get bad. And for some reason, it's not, for some reason, the dots aren't connecting in Zach's brain that he still, beat his brother up, and it's on video. Like, I don't understand how he don't think he gonna get no charges on that either. So Connie's like, you do know that your brother can press charges on you. I mean, also, since there's video footage, not only can his brother press charges, the state can probably press charges, especially considering you already have 2 strikes, sir. Like, be so for real about yourself. So Connie is like, now what you should be doing is going down to that hospital, trying to apologize to your brother, so that way he don't press charges on you. But Zach, again, not listening. Because according to Zach, he will never apologize to his brother. At the end of the day, this man, he, again, is not trying to take any accountability. So at this point, Connie is like, you know what, you really need to grow up. And baby, ain't that the truth? Like, honestly, if I was Tony, I definitely would not rock with Nate anymore. Because at this point, Nate is just following Zach around like a lost puppy. And we already know that he's the one who threw them under the bus. So at this point, Connie, she's like, you know what? We already know what's going to happen when Jeremiah feel a little better. He probably will try to, press some charges on Zach, because that way Zach goes back to jail, and Jeremiah gets to do whatever he needs to do. Whether that be, trying to get some insurance money, get Miss Gladys stuff, whatever he trying to do, he can do it with Zach out the way. Now, what's crazy to me is that Connie gonna say, Tony, you gotta talk to him or whatever, because he not listening to me. And girl, you think he gonna listen to Tony? He definitely ain't gonna listen to him. And honestly, if I was Tony, I would have been like, I'm not checking for Zach, because Zach done got too disrespectful. Like, I ain't doing that. I ain't rocking with Zach right now. Now, moving on, we actually go back to Angela's house. Fatima is clearly on the phone with Leslie, and she ends up telling her that, she can stop by, right? All right, cool. Angela's like, okay, so what they say when she get off the phone? And Fatima tells her, like, well, they said Leslie said that he could probably help. And what was weird to me was Angela was like, oh, why was she asking all those questions? Like, why was she asking about Malachi? And I'm just like, I'm confused, because isn't Malachi her husband? So why would she be asking questions about Malachi? Tyler, did you forget what character was supposed to be who? Like, did you switch some character names around? What's happening here? Because that didn't make sense. But I digress. So Fatima ends up asking, like, who do you think would do this to you? Like, do you think maybe it was Bryce? And her and Angela was like, nah, it wasn't Bryce. But here's my thing. I don't put nothing past Bryce. If that's the case, this is a way for us to get him off the show, because baby, he works my nerves. But I'm just like, Angela, all you have to do is go back to see what guys are on the video, because you should have probably remembered when they was at your house or around what time. Who is the first guy on the video? Because it probably was him. Or at least try to find the first video that was posted of you, so that way you can kind of gauge what the time frame was and who you was messing around with at the time. But then she starts saying, oh, well, it couldn't be Sean because that's the young buck. He's too dumb to do this. And then she mentions that she has an old faithful. Some old man named Humphrey or whatever. I said, not Humphrey, girl. Ew. And then she says that he's ugly and he's older, like in his 60s. Probably almost 70. So we quickly learned that it was actually old ass Humphrey because he's also the one who brought her the smoke detectors. So while he was probably installing those, he was probably installing the cameras. So at this point, Angela wants to call him up on the phone, but Fatima like, nah, baby, we thinking of a master plan. We got to set him up, okay? And then come to find out, every time he would come over, he would make sure he would blindfold Angela, a.k.a. set up a camera in a new spot. Sir, you was really being a weirdo. So, no, Angela's like, well, okay, fine. We gonna set him up tonight. And then she started to think like, but wait, maybe it wasn't him. So now Fatima's like, well, girl, you gonna have to think of who you was messing with, okay? So Angela goes ahead and gives the excuse as to why she keeps this ugly man around. And Fatima's like, okay, well, I'm about to head out. I'm going to see if I can get this taken care of. Now, here's my thing. If this man works for the FBI, I'm pretty sure he'll be able to track the IP address. And it'll probably let y'all know which guy it is. Just saying. So Angela ends up giving him a call, telling him to come over when Fatima leaves. So we shall see what Mr. Humphrey looks like. Moving on. So we see that Zach is finally dropping Nate off to his car. And basically, they talk about Fatima briefly and how Zach is still going to try to stick beside her. And he don't know if she at home or not. But at the end of the day, it's not like he's going to like go off on her or put hands on her. So we don't have to worry about that. And when Nate was getting out the car, he was basically saying that Bryce was a cool dude. And then Zach kind of agreed with him and was like, yeah, I've been giving him a hard time, but we gonna get through it. Are you? And a hard time is an understatement at this point. Like, you've been cold-hearted and disrespectful to that man. But let's go ahead and move on because Angela decided to take matters into her own hands. Now, I could have sworn Fatima told her we gonna have a cop outside waiting to arrest him, all the things. But no, Angela decided to do things her own way, right? So she ends up letting Humphrey come over, and Humphrey like, oh yeah, we gonna go to the bedroom. But she like, nah, we gonna go to the couch. And he like, nah, but my back. And she's like, oh, okay, cool, your back. Now I got a question. Where did you get the smoke detectors from? Y'all, got a little confused because she asked the man, where did you get them from? And he said, oh, let me take a look, right? So he looks up at the smoke detectors, right? She's like, oh, so you're admitting it. You did this. And I'm just like, what? How did we get from point A to point Z there? I don't understand. Like, he old. He probably done forgot what store it was. He hoping that the brand is labeled on there. So then he's like, no, these aren't the ones that I bought you. The ones I bought you had batteries. Now, I will say that there's absolutely a difference when it comes to smoke detectors. You know, there are some that have batteries. There are some that need to be wired through your home. So, girl, who have you been messing around with that is like an electrician? So this old man is confused because he like, girl, what are you trying to say? And she's like, there's a camera in those smoke detectors or whatever. So at this point, Angela is ending things with Humphrey. Humphrey is old and confused. He don't know what's going on. He's like, you know, I didn't do this to you. I don't even know how to use the internet. I don't even have none of this stuff. Now, I will say this. If the man about 70 years old, unless he worked in like that type of field, like he worked in tech or something, then girl, that old man don't know how to use technology. Like, unless he worked in those type of fields where he had to actually use a computer, it may not be him, girl. So at this point, Humphrey has left the building, okay? And baby, as fast as he went out, Bryce came walking in. I said, now what the hell? Like, dude, what are you doing here? He's like, oh, I got the alert that the police were here. And she like, excuse me, what do you mean the alert? Why do you have an alert on your phone that's connected to my house? And he's like, because I installed the door camera. Baby. Then he goes on to say, yeah, because, I got that installed when I installed the new, not security cameras, what were they? The smoke detectors. And she is just like, oh my gosh, like, why would you do that? Like, why would you do this to me? And he's like, you're the one who asked for the ones with the cameras in it. And she's like, I never asked for that. So he goes on to show her the text messages that she did say those things. Now, I don't know how this all got all mixed up, but Bryce is still confused. So she ends up kicking him out, telling him he gotta go, he gotta leave, get out of my house, get out of my house, get out of my house. He finally ends up walking out the door. And y'all, honestly, one thing that I noticed in this scene, and I have been noticing it throughout watching that sister Zatima, what is Angela's favorite word, y'all? Drop it in the comments, because when I tell you, we should start taking a shot every time she say this one word, and baby, we'll be so toe up. We will be so toe up. Now, y'all, let's get to the end of this episode, because Zach goes back to his home. And when he opens up the door, first of all, I don't know how anybody didn't hear him open up the door, but I digress. So he goes over to his dining room area, no, actually the kitchen area, and there is a woman who definitely looks like it could be Fatima, sitting on top of the counter. A guy's making out with her, and next thing you know, Zach goes over there, throws the guy clean across the dining room table and onto the floor, and that is where the episode left off. Now, we all know that it ain't Fatima, okay? It's her homegirl, Lindsay. But here's my thing. Why would they just be in her house like this? So, like, why are these people randomly in Fatima's house? That's weird. Where's Fatima at? Is she upstairs? I'm trying to understand. But y'all, that was where the episode left off. Let me know what y'all thought about it. Go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. And I will talk to y'all in my next review. Bye, guys.